right. Good morning. My name is Alex Welker. I'll be demoing the EASYBuyer portal. What we'll be doing today is we'll be doing a non-stock punch-out, which we'll go to Office Max, grab some items, and then it'll bring it back to the EASYBuyer non-stock cart. Then we'll do some stock items to kind of show you the differences there. We'll run through that non-stock approval flow to go through Procurement Logistics, the manager CIO approval. And in that CIO approval, Jeff, I've already set you up as the email address for that. So you'll get an email, and you'll be able to make that approval from either your cell phone or your laptop. And then from there, we'll have one last approver, the buyer, who can ask for price, that handles the price bidding. And then from there, we'll do the VOB test, or the VOB part of the system, and then we'll pass it on to the SCIU, which Jeremy will be doing. Let's go ahead and log in as the requester. This is the user that we use to make any of our requests, whether it's stock, non-stock, punch-out. This is that user. And that can be any user. This is just for our base module we use. As I said, we're going to go to punch-out and go directly to that Office Max site to pick out our items. So here we see a completely different screen. So this is the actual OfficeMax.com. We have no control over this site. And we just send an XML that gives them the information about us, saying this is Suman Prasad, and then they'll send us an XML back with all the information on the order. Let's go ahead and add a digital camera. We'll add 2 of these. Add those to cart, and go ahead and check out. Now, like I was saying, it brings back that XML and brings us back to our actual web store. And since this is a non-stock item, we don't really have control of that unit cost. We do allow the user to make an edit here. We could, as Kent was saying, we can do it your way. So if you wanted this to be uneditable, if it came back from punch-out, that's how we could handle this as well. But I do have the ability here to reset the cost and quantity, and then I can go ahead and check out. So what checkout does is it basically starts that requisitioning process. And as Ken was saying, we do keep it out, but this could, instead of creating that process, it could create that PO, and then we could go ahead and follow it along until it hits the steps that you have necessary to finalize it. So we have the ability to do on behalf of, and what this does is, let's say Kent needed to submit this request and have it follow his approval flow rather than my own. I could select Kent as the on behalf of, and then it would follow his approval flow, even though I submitted it. We have the comments for requisition only. This will follow the comments throughout the request, so the users can see it. The comments for PO and vendors, that's going to actually be added into JDE as a text attachment. That's cool. Here in account coding and shipping, we see a lot of these values already filled out for us. So with EASYBuyer, a lot of users are going to be submitting information or submitting requests with the same account and shipping. So we have preferences for them. So they can log in and set these on their first time and then never have to type in those specific ones again. They still do have the ability to freeform it, as well as a direct lookup to JDE. I can look. This will come real time. This will come real time from JD Edwards.
Nice.
And then attachments is the last thing we have on this specific page. So the attachments, again, will follow the request from start to finish and then be added as an attachment in JDE. that. And now every user can see that CSV throughout the flow. So that could be the user has all the items that they wanted approved and the reasoning for it. Lots of different reasons to have that attachment. We can even require attachments on specific different requests. Really, a lot of different ways to handle attachments for each different request. So we're not submitting the order quite yet. The last thing we're going to do is review our items and review the approval flow that we have for this request. But here we have the ability to set different information on the item level. So we set the account information at the header level, which will automatically set all items to that. But sometimes we may want to set one of the cameras to one account while the other one's in another. So we need that ability to select different accounts for different items, and that's where we can do this here. So anything you want to set different per line level, we can set here for that information. And then below that, we have the approval flow that this is going to follow. So procurement logistics and buyers are both a group approver, so multiple people are part of those groups, while the manager CIO are specific people that will go ahead and make that approval. And at the very end, we'll see the buyers have that special ability to send out for that price setting. Let's go ahead and place this order.
Keep in mind, this is just an example of a workflow. It has nothing to do with what you'll eventually do. It is just part of the base module, the way we have it set up. Every customer does it differently, so that's very changeable. And that's that piece of our base BPM workflow that's part of our product, Jeff, that it's very changeable.
Here's our whole request sorted out as it was submitted.
I noticed you got date timestamps on the approvers. One was the log was the requisitioner. Then obviously now you're logging in as the procurement logistics guy. Do you have the ability to report performance in terms of the time between the requisition is submitted to the time it's issued to the PO, and then incrementally, who's the bottleneck?
Absolutely. On one of the projects I'm working on now, that's one of the features that we implemented for them, so they can see what is causing the problem for each different type of request. So we can set that up on, so maybe sometimes procurement is part of the request. So we can say for stock orders, it's this group that's always been the slowest, but for non-stock, it's procurement logistics that's always been the slowest. Okay. So we can do it by type as well. So here, procurement logistics comes in. They see exactly what has been submitted by the requester. I can leave my comments. And this, will, again, will follow the entire length of the request. And as Kevin was saying, we can follow a PO that you have in JDE, but we can also store extra data outside of that. So if there's nowhere you want to store these comments that in JDE, we can, in our database, we can store this comment to that specific status and that user and kind of audit off of that as well. So it does give that ability of not having to customize JDE, but still using that full power of JDE.
Very good.
Let's go ahead and log out and log in as the manager.
Part of all easy process applications is the ability to trace history, track who's doing what. All of that is reportable and stored in the system.
There's our comment.
I'm thinking is we could put in a shipping workflow. based on certain triggers, like international, whatever, that goes through, crosses like Jerry's desk or so whoever he designates to make sure, or even sends an email to SOS or to, you know, so they're aware of that there's an order for
It'll refresh.
not for stocked items, because we already have those lined up for non-stocked items, for one-offs, so that he's not reacting to it. Oh, the wheels fell off the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's a bus. Let's make sure the wheels don't fall off, right?
2 weeks after the bus left. That's your problem.
So I'm just, because you get the shipping codes, right? And then you can actually notify our freight forwarders based on if they want air or ground, you know, that kind of thing.
It's not already in there.
It's not already in.
You don't already have it. It's just in there.
Correct. Yeah, as an exception. I'm just thinking out loud. So it's not a necessary business process we have, but it could be one that could. So we're proactive instead of reactive in the transportation piece. I was just thinking out loud as I was watching this thing go. Sorry, guys.
Oh, no problem.
No, it's okay. We took a little break.
Jeff, you should have gotten an email from demo@KRISystems.com. It'll look very similar to this. It'll look exactly like this.
If you look at that, it's really important to realize that, you know, that's the kind of data that can be going out to people. Even if it's not something that makes changes. We have one customer who uses it for their sales force, and the salesmen every morning get a report, real-time data telling them about the clients they're visiting that day. They've claimed 2012, 2013 was their best sales year ever because of just getting that real-time data every morning. So this kind of data, very crucial. There will be enough information in that email, because we'll design it with you, to make sure that the person getting it can make a decision based on that data alone.
So we have 3 different ways to kind of go in and approve from an email, or not approve from an email, but to access the request from an email. So we have our approve and deny buttons. And what those simply do is create a new email that sends back to our system that we then parse and do whatever that email really tells us to do. So Jeff, if you could go ahead and hit that approve link on that email, should pop you up another email. And then at the very, I'll follow along. So if you want to add a note, that'll add to the comments. So if you, after that colon, you could add any comments you want, and that'll come up in the approved history.
I'm just scrolling through and showing them the email that came in on the big screen, and I'm going to hit approve now.
You could have approved that with comments.
Yeah, well, it's giving me. I got another email. It opens up a box. Huh? Hang on. Let me pull the box over real quick. So this is when I hit approve. This is the email, and it says add a note. Type it below. So I say. And I hit send. All right, I sent it.
Perfect. Okay, now what that'll do is we'll pick it up. So we have a job that runs every minute or so, and I'm logged in as the buyer. So that'll be the next person that goes through approval. So we'll wait for that to kind of be parsed and picked up for us. And while that happens, the other 2 options for the email are the click to access EASYBuyer, and that'll just take you to the home page, or the auto login. And what that'll do is it'll allow the user to click that link, and it'll take them directly to that request to hit approve. So if some of this data you don't really feel comfortable sending out by email, we can go ahead and wait on, or we can send a little bit of information and then force them to go into the system to see the rest. And here's the new camera pending request, now sitting at the buyer level. Let's go ahead and look at that history. And there's our comment.
Oh, yeah, it automatically stuck in my default notice.
Yep.
These will actually be shipped to you. This is part of the bonus of doing a demonstration with us.
Just make sure you sign the bill to my boss.
Yeah, you missed out. We didn't do the Mercury Marine demonstration today, and it would have been a Merc Cruiser engine, but too bad.
Oh, that'll work.
So hold on just a moment. So how does this help Carol? Like, you know how Carol always complaining. Okay, she's waiting for Jim or someone to get approval on her rec. So get approval.
Correct.
So he can approve these things
By email, anywhere on the plan, as long as he has access to the email. So if he's on the airport and he sees an email comes in that says, I need 2 cameras, he could, before he even gets on the plane,
Yes.
but he can approve or deny and make comments accordingly. Like I said, no, just order 1, right? Kick it back. You know, we're just kind of, you know, demonstrating the functionality, and I didn't say deny, so I wouldn't screw up his demo.
Right.
But once he understands the process, you know, we establish our workflows and our business practices in there. Deny would mean not kill the rec. It could mean set it back with comments. You can require comments. You don't need 2 cameras, buy 1.
Right.
So then they can go in and change it and then resubmit it and have all that done outside of J.D. Edwards, which is a good database, but it's encumbering some, right? We all know how fun it is to interface with J.D. Edwards. So what we're using the technology of web pages and XML and all the other things that make the world go around in terms of, you know, e-commerce,
right,
and then hitting the J.D. Edwards database and the business processes that we use to generate that data.
Gotcha.
At key integral. So you get the lightning speed and flexibility sitting outside of J.D. Edwards with all the busy activities, and then you hit J.D. Edwards when you're ready to go live with a purchase order. Okay.
Okay.
Is that a good summary?
Yeah, we've written that all down. It'll be on our site. So, you know, we've seen.
Sound like a discount on the product to me.
So that's very good. We've seen Fox, and this was not a feature they realized would be such a big deal, because the people creating the application, they knew that they would just be using the PC version of this. But what happened with their vendor onboarding approvals is all the VPs were approving only by handheld. And the handheld was kind of like this side thing they did. Oh, it'd be nice to have email, you know. Well, of course, you know how these approvals are happening. Email comes in, the VP looks at it, says approve, and then, you know, uses his 9-iron, right? So that's how those approvals are happening at Fox. There's a great ability to do these approvals. Be aware, you mentioned something about where does like a rejection go, and customers do different things. Some completely destroy the requisition, say sorry, that's gone. Some send it back to the requisitioner. Sometimes it just goes to the buyer, kind of depending sometimes on how, you know, is it a price issue? Well, the buyer just needs to get a better price, right? Or it may need to go back to the requisitioner, and rather than completely start from scratch, you just need to have them change the quantity, right? So you can implement that the way you need it. Okay, Alex?
Okay, so we are on the buyer screen now, and they do see a different approval screen. They have that ability to make an update to basically any part of the system, or any part of the request. So this can be at any step. So if you want the procurement team to be able to edit it, that can happen as well. But the thing we wanted to show you here was really the price bidding. So we can go ahead and ask vendors to quote an item. So say we're buying 100 and OfficeMax doesn't know our exact contract from the punch out for some reason. So we can go ahead and add vendors to quote. Maybe we can find a cheaper price. So we'll add a couple of vendors here. And once we add these and request quotes, this will send out an email letting them know, hey, there's a new price quote for you to do. Can you log in and let us know what you can do for that quote? So the buyer sends this out, doesn't want to do anything else with the requisition right now, so the buyer will wait on this and go ahead and we'll log out. So this is what the vendor will log in and see. They can go ahead and set that price. We don't show them the price, obviously, so we can go ahead and say, oh, this camera is $900 even, rather than the almost $1,000 we saw earlier. Also, the vendor can let them know that there could be price changes for certain different amounts here. So this information will then get sent back to the buyer.
Now, we're not showing you the step of the vendor getting an email. We can't show every step of every transaction. We will be here forever. But, of course, the vendor gets an email that can log him in. This can be something, it can be an actual piece of your vendor portal, or it could be just a one-off little thing that they can do in your EASYBuyer portal.
The request is still waiting on the buyer. And we do see that one of those vendors has gotten back to us. So we can go ahead and make an action on this. If that 900 is good enough for us at this point, we don't think it'll be better. We can go ahead and accept that price, and that'll automatically update the item for us. The item's been updated. We have our new extended price. And then we can go ahead and make that approval. In some cases, if that price change was too drastic, we could force it to go through approval again. That really is dependent on your needs. If you're okay with the buyer making that decision, we can just push it through. If not, we can send it back to that last approver saying, hey, is this price still okay? And then it'll go through the CIO and then to JDE. So really, again, up to your decision.
So how do you push it through? Will you have some type of tolerance on it or something?
For the amount?
Right. I mean, so if the buyer is within 10% plus or minus of the approved dollar, then you can go ahead and process it. What if it's double the amount?
For our demo system, we do not have that, just so it doesn't affect the demo at any point. But yeah, typically it'd be a 10 to 15% that would stop the buyer and have them send back to the last approver, or we've also seen go through the entire workflow again.
Okay.
And the buyer doesn't have to be last either. The buyer could be the first approver. So again, that really is dependent on how your internals work.
Okay.
So now when we hit approve, what this is going to do is this is going to go and then be updated into JD Edwards. So this PO will be created in JDE. Let's go ahead and search for that. All right. And then this is another minute-long job that runs every minute to update. We don't do the updates live sometimes, depending on how much is being done in JDE, and that's just for speed reasons. We don't want the last approver to be sitting there waiting for a JDE business function to run. There we go. Here we'll see our two attachments. We have the comments and then our CSV file. Here's our header information.
That's nice. Yeah, that's nice.
And then our detailed information.
Bing, ba, boom.
Recognize that the entire history of that approval can be stored, depending on how you want it stored in JD Edwards, so that it's all traceable. it's of course always stored in our system, so it's always reviewable there as well.
So I have a question. If we have tables or we have designated suppliers for a product, let's say Dell is our supplier for computers. When someone logs in to purchase a computer, there's a workflow set up to who has to approve it, right? But additionally, is there a place that says this is where you go, so it only takes them to that resource? And how and where does that get set up? Does that get set up as the primary in JDE or somewhere else?
So they would click on maybe computer supplies link on their homepage. Does that make sense? And then that would take them to the only way they can do that.
Okay.
You can drive compliance by using the punch out.
Saying these are your suppliers.
So the idea here is,
Haven't gotten to that point yet.
that's a more along the lines of a catalog implementation, but you can still do non-catalog where you have this same kind of thing here. You see the links there for the types of things you can order. And that would force certain pre-set up variables to be part of that purchase order.
So,
Okay.
so Maria, so my vision would be, and it's just me talking, you would probably have catalogs, especially these what I don't know the terminology just used. I'll just say non-standard catalogs, right? Almost everything. So if someone wanted to order a stream catalog, they want to order rollers. I mean, so it's not just going to be for, say, typical supplies.
No, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be for everything that, so let's say McMaster Carr was our preferred supplier for, I don't know,
General
parts, general equipment, right?
Right.
Then when they went in, that would be the primary location. If they wanted to purchase somewhere else, it would have to be approved.
Would have to be approved. So what you just described, in my mind, you would have your standard punch-out catalog, but then you would have also these static catalogs.
Right.
So a punch-out catalog, like you said, would be MSC or, say, I don't know, Applied or Motion or someone like that.
But I have certain items that are under contract with MSC.
Exactly.
So then when they click on, they would punch out to a static catalog where I've already had the pricing.
Right. Everything's already set.
So in theory, if you had them, it was already set. You know what the prices are. We could set up a business rule that says their approval is not necessary. It's just like buying raw materials.
Right. I mean, if
Exactly. But as soon as you
already
correct, negotiated under management, right?
I have a question. What about items and vendors that might not be already set up in JD Edwards? Suppose the buyer is unaware that the data is missing. Does it kick an error? Does it allow you to process it anyways? How does that work?
So, I mean, these are basically non-stock items you just created kind of from scratch on the fly, right?
Yeah, well, the situation I'm thinking of is the buyer thinks that the item has been set up and ready to go. Somebody made a request for them to put in a purchase order, but the data part hadn't been set up yet for whatever reason. How does the system handle that? Does it let them know that it's not set up yet, that it needs to be set up? Does it send an email to somebody to go and put the data up?
The way it's designed right now, before it begins, you will pick whether it's a stock or non-stock item. So it's not like you can pick, because if you pick a stock item, it has to exist in JDE, and then only it will proceed.
Just pulling from the table there. Okay.
Yeah. So
you know, you even have the ability to create a non-stock item where you can put a note to the buyer saying, I have no idea where to buy this, help, right? And then it becomes the buyer's job to source it.
Okay.
So
yeah,
if we set this up differently, how we look at our buyers is going to be changed. Our buyers are going to be real buyers. They're not going to be paper pushers.
right, everybody becomes a buyer, if you will, from if you're a consumer, you place a purchase order. But as far as buyers themselves, they're more strategic in nature.
They're going to start sourcing.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to, oh, you want a gizmo? I got to go find who sells gizmos and go source it on a non-stocked item. Or, oh, you want to stock gizmos? Okay, let me go check my contracts and see does an existing contract cover gizmos. Let me go talk to them If not, then I got to go source it.
Right.
Right? Then I add it to my punch-out catalog for non-stocked items, or do I add it to my static catalog?
Right.
Do I, you know?
Right.
So in your case, where you're asking, okay, I want to set it up as a stocked item, but I need to buy it like now. So then there's two steps. There's the buy it now non-stock transaction, and then there's the, all right, let's set it up and stock it, right? And so,
Yeah.
But it'll change in theory how we do business. So what we're doing is we're taking the sourcing activity that the engineers are doing and put it in where the buyers, okay. So you're moving that piece out.
Make it a strategic.
You're making a strategic play, but the engineer's still going to put in the requirement. I need a gizmo, okay, and here's the specifications for the gizmo, and he may even found a supplier and can put it in there. But that's what he just illustrated. I wanted to buy the camera from OfficeMax at $9.99 a piece, and then we just turned around and we just bidded it out to see who else sells that same camera, right? And then say, hey, I just saved you your cost center, you know, $400 because I found it for the exact same camera somewhere else.
But the standard punch-out stuff which you haven't gotten to, the vision is everybody would be a buyer.
Yeah.
You eliminate, if there's a standard item and we've already negotiated the price, terms and conditions, then if Brian wants I don't know, a mouse, he can go to Dell and he can order his mouse because he can go straight. He as an end user, need to intercede with the buyer because everything's already set up.
And it just goes to the approval flow for whatever the item slash process.
Which is going to be a major behavior change too.
Yeah, but the nice thing is because we've already set the conditions, we remove all that onerous administration now off of it, right? That should then clear the capability for the Carols to do the sourcing. Right. But the other side of that is when it arrives at the buyer to release it, now we can say, buyer, check sales and use tax codes. We don't do that today, right? Check to make sure it's the right shipping mechanism. You know, shipping terms. Is it, you know, FCA, DDP, you know, whatever, all right? And so now we're making these contracts we call purchase orders, you know, meaning by it, right? Right. So.
Okay, Ken and King. Sorry.
Yeah. No, they expect this. I think they run into this all the time. I would think, you know, it starts the juices flowing and people start going off on it. But look at uniforms. You know, didn't think about uniforms. Ink cartridges. I mean, that's one of our. I didn't think about that. Paper supply, yeah, all right. You know, the opportunities, you know, keeps going and going.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to just show you a quick the punch out with the catalog. So you see kind of the alignment to J.D. Edwards items.
Yeah, so the camera was one that, let's say we didn't have a price set up. Oop, I'm not logged in as the right person.
I hate it when that happens.
I know. I can add the item. It won't matter. I'm not going to go through the...
We're not going to do the whole flow again, so we just want you to see how it works.
So this is an item we actually have set up. And then this will come back to the shopping cart where it's not editable. This is the actual price. I can edit my quantity, but I cannot edit my price.
And then you see the stock type alignment with the J.D. Edwards catalog.
Yeah, so this is that we have the negotiated prices where we're always going to buy it from. That's where this could kind of happen. And then it follows the same flow minus the procurement logistics and buyer because we already have that price, so we're only going to need the approvals that you can actually buy that from your supervisor. And
right, so this becomes just a dollar amount approval, not anything else, right? What's your signing limit?
Right.
So if it's under your signing limit, when they click update, well, they still have to create the item, but when they do submit, it just becomes approved immediately.
Right. Yep. Right.